So my first question to Raman, we are seeing a rise in a lot in the number of green buildings today. So how do you think, how do you think governments, certification bodies, and the industry stakeholders can work together to create stronger accountability for long-term performance of green buildings after certification? Like I think you also mentioned about operational efficiency. So if you can let us know on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Anupama. I would like to answer this question in three categories. One is in terms of the collaboration, then performance, and what is the role of the government. So sustainability can succeed at scale only through integrated approach across design to construction to operation with clear accountability shared by all the stakeholders. In fact, in our lead program, we have a exclusive credit called integrative process where at the early stage of design, so we bring all the stakeholders starting from your project team to the consultants to the even the facilities team who are going to manage the property of the construction. So all are bring together in a at the design stage so that they can work towards in terms of optimizing the energy, water, carbon, comfort, and cost. So this where we encourage the, I would say, the collaboration or the accountability for all the stakeholders involved in the project. And many of us have said certification is not only a one-time badge. We also mentioned to all the stakeholders saying that don't think the certification is a one-time benefit you're going. It should be an ongoing performance commitment towards your post-occupancy verification and periodic recertification. In this model, what you can do, you can able to continuously track the real-time operational efficiency of the building, thereby whatever the gaps in the operation, you can able to look into it, and then it will help in terms of your operational efficiency. The third, in terms of the, you also asked about the government one. So, LEED is still LEED or any green building program is largely a voluntary now. So, and the government also offer the incentives depending upon the level of certification you are getting through a tax rebate or additional FIR. But that is not enough to drive the scale. So, to deliver a long-term impact, green building standards must shift from voluntary to mandatory. So we have many case studies in India and globally in terms of these projects have proven both environmentally and economically viable. So, and many of the projects are also now progressing towards a net zero level. So we have many benchmarks. So government can look at these in terms of accelerating consistent and scalable outcomes. So this is my answer to the question. So if we
Thank you, sir. So, Kumar, I would like to have your insights on this.
Okay, I mean, whether it's voluntary or mandatory, at the end of the day, I think, irrespective of the certification programs, humanity to survive, I think we have to focus on. That's a basic important thing. And of course, we have lost all the good things that we had in India. I mean, Sujit was mentioning about Indian architecture. So, um, anyway, coming back to the thing, yeah, I think the boundaries are getting pushed. There is enough pressure coming from investors, occupiers. So the real estate developers are forced to do something. Plus, the standards like ASHRAE are pushing the boundaries. Climate risk is a reality, as I talked about in the beginning itself. So I think thanks to green building councils, I would definitely say that on record here, after they have come in compared to what kind of buildings that were built in 1990s today, I think we have really evolved for an air conditioned building. I'm not talking about all kinds of buildings. Essentially, for a commercial building, definitely there has been a lot of improvements, but I think that's not enough. If you have to really protect the earth and protect ourselves, not even the future generations, protect our generation, I think it's the need of that. I think there is only one way to go ahead, which is the right thing to do, which means we all need to do our bit. Essentially, that's where I would say.
Thank you, sir. My next question to Dr. Sujit. So, despite the growing awareness today about green buildings and climate, resilience, many developers still perceive green buildings as expensive investment. So, how can the industry reframe sustainability not as a premium feature, but as a long-term economic and operational advantage? I'd like to have your insights as an architect, or have you faced anything like this, or what do you think should be done to mitigate this?
If I were to Thank you. If I were to put smartness on a scale of 1 to 10, I think the developer gets 11. I have seen the smartest people in this trade of building industry are the developers. I mean, the consultants and others are all basically addressing one aspect of it. In the Indian developer is fighting a lot of issues, from regulations to funding to land issues to illegalities to title issues, and then getting the right kind of architect, getting the right design, then everything is then the vastu comes, then the saleability is a huge gamut of things that guy single-handedly handles. So when you give the kind of talk most of us are giving here, giving numbers and stories and how mapping of a carbon, its accounting is done, or even for energy accounting, or even lighting indexes, or getting calculating the light on the working plane, anything, take anything, it's one more pain point for him. But if you look at their understanding, they all want to give a good building, but commerce is the first driving criteria. The first question they ask is a green building costlier or cheaper? Now, honestly speaking, I have for a long time, the market says it's 20% more expensive because of the features you have to add. Some people say 10%, some put 15%. My personal understanding is that a good building done well is usually at the same rate as a bad building. The cost doesn't change much. It is just that your design intelligence and the amount of detailing, the amount of effort, and your integrity of design is extremely at stake when you do a green building design. So for the developer to get understanding that it doesn't cost much, or marginally maybe a couple of 2 or 3% higher in the capex that he understands. But the on the OpEx side, because if, for example, if my building is 34 kilowatt hour per square meter, means in 1 year, 1 square meter only consumes 34 units, while the world average is doing 200 units. So the guy saves a huge amount of money in the electricity bill, provided he's paying the bill. A large amount of developers in the commercial sector are actually doing build to suit shells, and the tenant is the one who is paying for the electricity bill, and he is the one who is handling this. So there's also a dichotomy in the ownership to leasing models we have. If I were to, so therefore, there is no single answer to your complex question, which sounds very simple. Developers understand the value of green buildings or sustainable architecture. They also understand the necessity to do that. So there are some builders who have actually used green building as their brand icon and became a popular brand. How green they are is a secondary question. I mean, it could be just greenwashing, but people use green as a selling point or a true, what do you call, give back to the society or give back to earth in design. So therefore, it is beyond doubt that every developer understands that you have to be green, if not now, tomorrow. But you're right. When it comes to actually employing a professional, he looks at, for example, if I'm charging 90 rupees a square foot for a building, residential building, and there's a guy who's doing it at 30 rupees or 35 rupees or 40 rupees, the developer's first point is that, "Ki, why so expensive?" So when we break it down later for him to understand that, okay, boss, you use roughly 12% lesser concrete blocks in my building. You use roughly 8 to 10% lesser steel. So when you start putting all those things, I save 200 rupees for you after taking 90 rupees. So therefore, those things come with time. There are developers who understand the value of this, and they're willing to pay this upfront and reap the benefit over the 50-year life of a building. There are developers who bargain with you, and you sometimes relent and come down on your costing. But in the end, as an industry, we all understand that the only way to build is to build good. The bad buildings where, you see, there was a time when you could build anything and finally it will sell because there's a huge demand in the market. Today, a guy who is buying a 2.5 or 3 crore apartment has got multiple options. He's got everything on his foot. So therefore, when a developer perceives the green building as an expensive investment, it is only for those penny wise pound foolish developers. But largely, what I've understood from my markets is that most developers are in for it. Some of them plan well in advance, so they give us time, so we do a great building. Some of them are a very short time because of the JD they have got into joint venture on the land or the financing issues. They're in a very short turnaround spin cycle, and therefore neither the consultant nor the developer is giving enough time to design. And therefore, a lot of standard practices of boxy architecture that Vaishali was showing about, Dabba architecture, I call it, or see, the standard fact is that we have made so many glass buildings in Bangalore. I'm an advocate of glass, but there's a way to use it. With so much of light around, when Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai copied the European architecture because Europe was a gloomy place with no sunlight or less sunlight, you had big glasses to make the place look light. When they copied that into Dubai, I think that was the most stupid thing that anybody could do. We improved the quality of glass. We got triple coated glass. We got SKN 154. We got high performance glass too. It's like fighting cancer with a bandit. So we did that. But when we copied from Dubai, that was the ultimate pit. So a large amount of infrastructure, particularly office infrastructure in India, has come up to replace or look like the American or the European buildings, which it need not. What is required, and then it is difficult to maintain because of the dusty environment. If people could become sensible, do great buildings with using no lighting for daylighting inside so long as the sun is up, and of course in the night you put on supplementary light, you create places that require less air conditioner to give you the same comfort, and you don't subcool the building and then wear a coat and a tie to feel warm because it's otherwise very cold. If you stop doing stupidity and be just wise about simple things, I think the market is still not open to understanding that how the industry must reframe sustainability not as an option, but as a mandatory skeleton to design.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights. Can I have Vaishali's viewpoint on this?
So very well put together all the points. The only take in this for me is like from my side is that like he said that maybe the developer is not willing at the start or in the middle, or maybe he is there. And he was also mentioning that we are talking about numbers and things like that. So if we like if consultants like us or maybe other people collaborate from the start of the project, from the conceptual stage with the developer as well as the architect, and we try to solve this a whole problem from the start, like actually looking it as a problem and not as a final design is like a solution. We can like integratively do this all together, like Kumar sir also said that when we are designing as per the certification norms, we are actually making better buildings. So obviously they have a set of instructions, you can say like a checklist. When you go through all of those, but obviously while designing, if there is somebody who understands that and can help you relate to it while the design is happening, or while the developer is taking those considerations of material, choosing the material, or maybe if I talk about just the government building, what happens is like in government buildings, there in the tender there's a requirement that you have to have your building at least Griha 3-star rated, or certain certification needs to be taken. But the architecture happens earlier to that, and then the tenders get closed, and then the sustainability consultants comes on board. So if that sustainability consultant gets onboarded during the time of architecture design, or whosoever is getting the tender is not the issue, but the design has happened somehow. So if that person is involved during the design stage, they can actually, with the numbers also, help the architect or the developer to design it in a better way and eventually get to the right kind of a performance as well. So if we integrate things at the very early stage, then only we can achieve all the things we are talking about in terms of embodied carbon, in terms of life cycle, in terms of daylighting in terms of, if we haven't assessed how much daylighting a big building is getting inside by doing the simulations, how can you eventually understand that, yeah, this will perform better or this will actually get the 100% daylit spaces, right? So those performance or design integration needs to happen at a very early stage.
Thank you, Vaishali, for those additional insights as well. So my question to Kumar sir. So you've seen a lot of projects in your life. So what do you think are the most frequent disconnects between design intent and on-site execution that compromise green building performance? And why do you think they persist despite the planning and design?
Okay, thanks for that question. I think there is always a gap between what is intended and what actually happens. I'm just reminded of a small incident when I was growing up, when I was pretty young, I should say. I think one of my family friends' house, they had removed the ceiling fan for painting the house or something like that, and one of the one of the family members, he saw the ceiling fan had all the bends and things like that. He thought something is wrong, and he took a hammer and made everything straight. So, and then obviously you understand the entire curve is provided so that the airflow happens. And so he learned it the wrong way. And unfortunately, after he fitted the fan, then he realized there is no air coming. That happens in reality. In fact, I remember recently, I mean, couple of years back, uh, we had actually upgraded with a low friction filter, which is the ISO 16890 rated filters, as against the washable filters, which is pretty common in an air conditioned environment. And then somebody else comes and says, no, this is very expensive, and I would go back to the washable filter. So I think there is a lot of stakeholder engagement has to happen. We do this stakeholder engagement right from pre-design onwards, as Dr. Sujit mentioned. Sometimes people don't give you the time for all this to happen, but if it happens in the right manner, if there is a stakeholder engagement, and then there is also a right kind of a transition that has to happen from projects to operations in terms of knowledge transfer. Otherwise, if it doesn't happen, then there is always a problem. And in fact, jail as an organization where I work, we have a lot of experience in terms of the challenges that you face when you manage a facility. So all those things can go back into the design as a feedback into the design essentially, because you face problems when you operate something. I mean, you face this often when you build a house, and then you realize your wife comes and says, no, the kitchen slab is too much at a height and it should be at a much lower height, because Indian women, we are all only 5.5 feet and things like that. So anyway, the reality is there has to be integrated planning, just not on paper, but in reality. I mean, the inadequate planning should become adequate planning, stakeholder engagement, and making the MEP consultants understand why we are suggesting something, and then transitioning from project to operations in terms of knowledge transfer. I think that is only way. I mean, there is going to be gap always, design intent and post occupancy, but I think a lot of coordination is required for minimizing the gaps, I would say.
Thank you, sir. My question to Ashish. So I think they were speaking also about the commercial assets. So I think people who are running commercial assets could be more they might be having more money. So do you think smart building systems and technology is actually delivering measurable sustainability benefits, or is it just underutilized in commercial buildings?
So Anupama, I'll share our own experience on this. We have our own office building in Noida where uh, it's also a high performance building where our EPIs are quite low, and we did all the passive design features. It's a building which does not use any single artificial light throughout the day till about 5:30. We don't have any single artificial light on. It's a blinds free office because there's no glare. It's only the daylight that we are using for most of our spaces. Uh, we also built a real-time monitoring of the performance of the building, because it's not just the design but the operations is equally important. And IoT-based system is what we have deployed here, mainly to test how this IoTs work, because when the large commercial buildings where the energy monitoring, the overall performance monitoring is a big big gamut. The systems are mostly complicated that people are either not understanding those properly or those are not running properly. So the whole idea was to see how the IoT systems can really work in the real life scenario, which can help um, do the real time monitoring with the least amount of effort in a more efficient way. Our experience has been really great on that because you know um, even though we increase some of our operations, but we were able to still reduce our energy consumption of the building because we were tracking it very properly through the kind of data which was actually coming out of the monitoring system. So our experience is really great, and we are using that system for a lot of our large scale projects also now because it's tried and tested technology which is available, and it's really working very good.
Thank you, sir.
And this is a building. I will take your first question also about the cost of green building. This is also a platinum certified building, and we didn't spend anything extra. What Mr. Sujit was mentioning, if the things are done in the right time, right manner, possibly it doesn't cost you more. It's the right principles at the right time which matters more, and that's what even Vaishali was echoing. That integrating things at the right time is the key. This myth of high cost for green building actually has settled in the system right from the initial days of the green building movement, where a lot of project they try and using green building concepts when they were in the middle of the stages of the projects, or the materials which were not available in India were actually procured from outside to make it more energy efficient and all. So it somehow just prevails there. A lot of case studies are available where the cost has diminished significantly, and we have experienced it doesn't cost more if you integrate them well.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Anupama, there is a question to Dr. Sujit on the chat box.
Yeah. So it is Dr. Sujit. So, Sir Kumar, sir, I think I'll pick it up at the end of the discussion because we just had a few more questions to go.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So my question to Raman. So do you think the whole topic is about climate resilience and how to manage these climate risks? So do you think the current frameworks that are available are sufficient enough or to address issues like heat stress, flooding, and water scarcity? Because these are real-time issues that we battle in a country like India. So, do you think currently these are being addressed, or do you think India's building policies and green certification frameworks should evolve more to address these emerging climate risks?
Yeah, Sanupama, currently, if we see the policy interventions are only limited and largely focused at building levels, individual building level. So we have regulations addressing coastal zone construction or flood mitigation and related environmental concern. The overall approach remains fragmented. So there is a strong opportunity to strengthen the national policy framework so that we'll address all these emerging climate challenges. From a lead point of view, what we also try to do is from our rating perspective. So we also evolve periodic updates to our rating program, so introduction of pilot credits. So we also try to address some of these risks such as heat stress, flooding. We recently launched a version, lead version 5, which wherein we spoke about the resilience and human impacts or address more explicitly along the decarbonization. In fact, 10 years back, we also saw in the presentation about the LCA. So 10 years back when we moved from version 3 to version 4, so we had exclusive material credits where we asked the project team to look at an external certification on environmental product declaration or L product declaration or LCA. So these are being introduced 10 years back. So that the project which is using the materials or so they will perform in such a way that the embodied carbons are well utilized. So we also try to make sure that we up the game in terms of the energy efficiency or embodied carbon at least every 6 years when we come up with the next level, the version of the rating program. So, is this answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, my question to Vaishali. So you have been a consultant, and so what role does material selection and renewable energy integration, how much do they play in green building certification? So do they occupy a large part, or what is your experience on that? Or are there any other factors that contribute largely to certifications and the functioning of a building as a green building?
Mhm. So, as you said, material and renewables. So obviously they impact the building in a like a lot more detailed manner, not just if you just talk about having the regular kind of material. If you just start implementing all these things from the start, again, I'm coming back to the same thing, that if you have chosen the right kind of a material from the start, understanding its own embodied carbon and everything, its own life cycle, and then you kind of integrate it, obviously it will cost less, and you do not with the architecture, whatever architecture design is there, you decide on going for a lesser kind of a material usage rather than having a lot more usage, and then eventually you make your building, then you have saved on your material, you have saved on your costing, you have reduced on your carbon footprint, and you are good to go. And once you are good with the resources and your materials, obviously you have reduced the overall carbon footprint as well of the building. And about the renewables, it shouldn't be considered as an add-on, first of all. So what happens is, once the building is done, then people will realize that, oh, we just have this much of space on the rooftop, let's just put the solar panels. And then they will realize that this is not sufficient to even run one of the floors of the building, right? So we need to do these calculations prior. That is why calculations are very important. So yes, designing beautifully, designing in a certain way is really interesting, and it should go by that as an architect. But if we have the data, we can take those design decisions at the start of the project and then eventually do that. So if during the start of the project, you know that based on your total built up, this would be your floor, like roof area you will get, then you can strategically design that thing to have your solar panels. You can elevate it, or just not the solar panels. Somewhere maybe you can harness wind energy. Somewhere you can harness the what, like you can do something with the water. Then there is other things as well. Like in the HVAC system, we can go for other kind of radiant cooling panels. So all those things, integrations, if we do from the start, obviously we can make it better. In case you are thinking that you just want to make the building in few days and then just sell it, and then like the developer thinks in the similar manner. So there obviously you have given a task to the architect, he has designed, you have given the task to the developer, he has constructed, and then you have given the contract to the MEP consultant, and he will put the ACs all of there, and then you are again at the same old school way, which we have been, like the conventional way, which we have been following around, and there won't be a final better output in terms of sustainability or in terms of green. So obviously all of these matters. And I think you asked another one more point, right?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I had asked was like, beyond because material is a basic thing, so beyond material and the renewable energy, or the energy that can be saved. So what other things do play a larger role?
Yeah, so one is that how the occupants feel inside the building. So if they do not feel comfortable inside the building, obviously there's the building design is a waste, right? because buildings needs to be designed in a manner that they are the occupants feel comfortable throughout the day and night. So if you can harness a good amount of not harness, you can get the good amount of daylight inside the space. Obviously, you will feel comfortable. Your overall well-being will be better. If the air quality is good, you will feel comfortable. If you do not have any dust going around inside the space, you will feel comfortable. So all of these parameters eventually help. And then a lot is about VOC content. So in interiors, many people use oil-based materials. Many people use urea formaldehyde-based materials, which eventually, or throughout the life cycle of the project, kind of all the time radiating some kind of toxins into the air of those particular rooms, which we are keep on inhaling, right? So we need to also look into those factors that we do not use those kind of materials. And again, this is connected majorly to materials only, but you can also look into conserving water. You can also look into conserving other resources like wind and yeah, we are already doing electricity.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just request my panelists for just a 5 to 8 minutes extension because I know it is late, and thank you all for your time. We'll just have 2, 3 questions and one from the audience also. So one question is like I wanted to ask about retrofitting. So today we speak about new buildings where they're getting certified for green buildings. So how effective is to go in for additional features, or how I mean, how do you think it is more effective? Do you think it is more effective to retrofit a building for green certification? Is that commercially or cost-wise viable? I this question is open to everyone. Anybody can start.
Maybe
Yeah,
very
you see,
quickly, I can. Sorry.
when you can
Sure,
I
sir.
come in?
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure.
So, see, they're very simple. Retrofitting is a kind of word people keep using. If you have a bad building, when I say a bad building, means a building that is bad from everything from its height to volume ratios, the kind of windows it has used, kind of walls, kind of the finishes, the inside field, the way, the number of corridors to connect to each space, and so on. All those things put together, if you have a bad building, there is that much you can do with retrofitting. You can come inside, you can change a few things, you can slightly improve it. I always say a bad building is a bad building, and it's got its limitation. But there are averagely decent buildings. About 80% of the buildings are generally designed badly. They're designed badly for various reasons. I'm not going there. But there are about 20% of the, and we have done a lot of these buildings, particularly government buildings, and so very badly done buildings. L1 contractor, L1 architect, terrible buildings. So retrofitting is a very great idea if the life cycle of the building is just you're in the first quarter of the building. If you're in the first quarter of the building, you're retrofitting, it simply means you had a bad architect, you had a bad design policy, and you have a bad building. Otherwise, why are you retrofitting within 5, 10 years of the building's execution? Now, if the building is in the towards the last quarter of its life, that's in the 30th year or 35th year of it, I would rather say demolish it and redo a good building because, like Kumar, JLL, handle so many facilities. There's so much of technology in construction, in materials, in glass, and fenestration, in the non-leak air, in maintaining indoor air quality, the non-VOC paint. There's so many things that has come in. So with the retrofitting actually should be concentrated on which part of the building's lifestyle are you going to improve it and what is the level of improvement possible. Now, bad buildings, you can find a large percentage improvement, but then the amount of pain in restructuring and remodeling is huge unless it is worthwhile. And sometimes you find the retrofitting cost is nearly 70% of a new building. You got to also look factor those things. Ideally speaking, design intent correctly understood, well detailed and designed would have a great building. The additional things that of this green consultants have come in, the additional thing is quantifying the intangibles, converting them to tangibles to say, I have a good building. Now, what is good? It has got less luminaires for better lighting, less HP of more air conditioning, connected load to it, better air conditioning, less number of lifts to have circulation, less bricks to have built with. So, these are quantifiable things. So it is very important that the design intent is good and the buildings have quantified measurable things, not only in its initial cost in building, but like facility companies like JLL would understand the pain of maintaining it over 50-year period or a 70-year period to ensure that outside, how many times did you paint the building from outside? And how would you do that when the building is under operation? How would you maintain the ducts which is already there in the HVAC using an old system after 15 years? How would you redo the ducts? So while your building is still under occupancy. So a lot of design decisions, I believe, have to be done at the start so that you don't really need to retrofit. But those buildings, unfortunately, that has gone through a wrong process of design and has actually been delivered as a bad baby, the teacher can do that much, but there is a lot of improvement we have done in many, many buildings where we thought it was impossible to do things, but then it's a painful and a rigorously cost intensive process.
Thank you, sir. Who else would like to add their insights on this?
Yeah, I just want to add, it could be retrofitting. What level of retrofitting? Sometimes it could be just a change in the BMS control strategy could be a retrofit. Sometimes upgrading of a chiller or a air handling unit could be a retrofit. Sometimes the entire structure in terms of the building envelope and things like that. But I think there is a case, there is a business case today. I don't want to go into the details. Like, for example, RE80s rates are becoming common in the country today. You have a portfolio of buildings which have been built only the latest as 2025, and some building which was built as early as 1995. So if you don't upgrade the building of 1995, that building will not get occupied. So from a leasing and various other points of view, if you look at it, I think retrofitting will be the reality.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else would like to add anything else? Okay, so my next question, just two quick questions. So today we speak of isolated buildings for green certification. So do you think it is going to solve the purpose of, climate risk or addressing climate risk? Or how can we scale it up for a country like India, given or, cost-wise or however it is? I'd like to have anybody's willing to come in, welcome to give their insights.
See, I would just say to that, I think sustainability as a concept, and when we talk of things about climate mitigation, climate change, green building is one concept of the overall subject, I would say, and not necessarily green buildings can is the answer to every problem. But at the same time, green buildings are something which is, to me, it's a very good starting point for any building to start sustainability journey, I would say. That's how we have seen it over a period of time in many projects. That it gives you a good framework, it gives you a good understanding, or simply put, it's your bachelor's degree to the to your academic journey in the life. And as you keep moving, you keep progressing on different things. Once you have got the basic fundamentals right in the building for sustainability at the beginning with green building and the high performance and the materials set right, I think that gives you a good ingredient for you to either make sure that your operations are good, make sure that during operations, if you want to do any upgrades, I think the basic ingredients are good with the green building. That's my take. I'm happy to uh, have the others' opinions also.
Indian cities are underprepared for climate risk at this point of time. Maybe at an asset level, we can do something. I think there are some things being taken up by the state governments. Some of the state governments are doing it at a city level, but it's a larger topic, so I don't want to extend the time. But it has to be taken up at a city level.
Any other viewpoints from anyone?
Yeah, I could add to this. You see, we are all talking minusculely of our building envelope within a set site. If you look at the overall city plan itself, most cities are bursting at the seams The cities grow. I mean, it grows at the rate of roughly about 10% a year nowadays. So if your city is growing at 10%, you can understand in about 7 to 8 years' time, you double your capacity of traffic and its population. Unfortunately, we don't have any planned cities. The couple of planned cities we made in the 1950s are failure cities. They are like designed for not any growth, for individual units that cannot expand with laws that contain it within that perimeters. So we, I think, firstly lack an urban policy that makes sure that development of the city level or even at a sectoral level. The smart city was a good attempt, but it lost its steam somewhere through because it ended up being only technology infusing and IoT based stuff to control and govern and monitor and run. But it never at any stage looked at a greenfield space or even retrofitting brownfield areas into more optimal city levels with common spaces, with what is called public areas and demarcated private areas, private to public buffering zones. We all have boundaries which were defined, inside which were excellent buildings. The moment you step out, you're into a traffic jam or into a pothole or into a open sewer line, killing people, electrocution by wrong wires. So effectively, let whatever we do, you must ask this question: as a nation, as a country, what are we? We are not responsible for anything. We don't have what is called, we run a thing called Team Rethinking Urbanism, a set of few architects who get together to say the whole Bombay can be put on a 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer plane without roads, without any transport system to run the city for the same amount of built up space. So verticality is something we have always avoided because we don't have the fire brigades and the sky helicopters to handle that. Because many of our governance structures are archaic and British times, like the right from the police to the fire, they're very basic structures. So the city has never grown. um correctly. We do not have correct city planning procedures, and even the town planning norms that we follow, coloring, on a zone coloring on a plan to say this is a residential, are completely failed concepts in the Indian context of multi and mixed use kind of thing. We are adaptable. We are very organic. Chandni Chowk has a very powerful ecosystem that runs, which the Lutyens Delhi doesn't have. So essentially, we have to first have urban policies that bring into being good cities. We need to have correct CDPs to develop the existing cities into better cities. And then comes the role we are discussing of making individual buildings better. So it's a long thing. We first have to get the like Kumar said, the base parameter. It's a huge debate we're going to open if we touch there. We'll leave it for another debate, I guess.
Thank you, sir. Raman, you want to add anything
Yeah,
on
one.
this?
Yeah, yeah. I want to add one thing is green building should be a starting point. So it should not be. So with this starting point, so we should not stop there. So we should see how we are doing in terms of continuous monitoring. That will also help in terms of moving towards our net zero targets. That's a primary goal which now every client or corporate has. So this is going to help them. And more importantly, now there are a lot of awareness are also created in the market, so they know what are the benefits going for a certification or how it is helping them in terms of the operational expenses and finally going to the net zero. So there should be a starting point. And I also agree with Kumar sir in terms of at the government level, we should take at a state level in terms of how we can connect with the climate resiliency aspect to the standard. So this was my addition to the points.
Thank you, sir.